Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes as she prepared to close her small medical clinic for the day. The setting sun cast long shadows through the windows of her office in the quiet town of Millbrook. Just as she was about to turn off her computer, the bell above the door chimed. "I'm sorry, but we're closing." Sarah's words stopped in her throat as she looked up. Standing in her doorway was the most unusual woman she had ever seen. The stranger's skin seemed to shimmer like mother of pearl, catching the evening light and breaking it into soft rainbow colors. Her eyes were slightly too large for a human face, and when she blinked, a thin membrane swept sideways across them. Despite these differences, she looked remarkably human-like in her simple black dress and jacket. "Doctor," the stranger said in perfect English, though her voice had an odd musical quality to it, "I insist you examine my body." Sarah's hand instinctively moved toward her phone. The stranger raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. "Please, no authorities. I mean no harm. I am Lyra, and I need human medical help." "You're not from Earth," Sarah said slowly, stating the obvious. "No, I am Ethery, and I am breaking every law of my people by being here." Lyra's skin rippled with patterns of light, like northern lights dancing across her face. "We consider it taboo to let other species examine us medically, but I have no choice." Sarah's medical training kicked in as she noticed the way Lyra was holding herself, slightly hunched, protecting her left side. Whatever she was in pain. "Why me?" Sarah asked, even as she found herself reaching for a fresh pair of latex gloves. "Why not a bigger hospital?" "Because you are unknown. Simple. Your clinic is what humans call off the grid." Lyra's skin flickered weakly. "And because you still practice medicine the old way. You use your hands, your eyes, your mind, not just machines." Sarah should have called the police, or the FBI, or whoever handled first contact situations. Instead, she found herself pointing to the examination table. "Sit there, please." As Lyra moved, her dress shifted, revealing more of her iridescent skin. The patterns of light beneath it were chaotic, irregular. Even without knowing ethery biology, Sarah could tell something was very wrong. "Before we start," Sarah said, pulling on her gloves, "you should know that I've never treated an alien before. I could make things worse." Lyra's large eyes fixed on her. "Doctor, things cannot get worse. I am dying. My people's advanced medicine cannot help me. So perhaps," her skin pulsed with a weak blue light, "perhaps it is time to try something primitive." Sarah took a deep breath and picked up her stethoscope. Sometimes the most important moments in life came disguised as terrible ideas. "Okay, Lyra, let's start with your breathing." Outside, the sun finally set, leaving the examination room lit only by the gentle glow of medical equipment and the frightened flickering of an alien skin. Sarah stared at the readings on her medical tablet in confusion. Nothing made sense. Lyra's vital signs kept changing every few seconds, as if her body couldn't decide what was normal. The only constant was the irregular pattern of lights moving under her skin. "Your entire body communicates through these light patterns?" Sarah asked, making notes. "Yes." Lyra's skin flashed a weak purple. "It's how we share emotions, status, and health. Right now, my patterns show severe distress." She paused, her large eyes darting to the window. "And fear." Sarah put down her tablet. "You're not just any ethery, are you? The way you hold yourself, how you speak, you're someone important." Lyra's skin went completely dark for a moment. Something Sarah would learn later was the equivalent of a bitter laugh. "I am Princess Lyra Valsoran, heir to the Ethery High Council, and I am here because someone is trying to kill my entire family." "What?" Sarah nearly dropped her stethoscope. 2 months ago, my younger brother became ill. Then my father. The royal doctor said it was genetic degradation, common among our engineered bloodlines. But I saw the truth in their light patterns. They were lying. Sarah leaned forward. "How do you know?" Because I studied forbidden human medical texts. Lyra's skin rippled with shame. My people consider human medicine primitive. But your books taught me something important. What natural genetic failure looks like versus poisoning. Outside, a car drove past the clinic. Both women tensed until its headlights faded. The poison, Lyra continued, is designed to look like natural decay. It's clever. Our advanced medical systems can't detect it because they're programmed to see these symptoms as normal genetic breakdown. But why come to me? Sarah asked. I'm just a small-town doctor. Lyra's skin glowed with a mix of gold and green, hope and trust. Because you still use your eyes and hands to diagnose. You haven't forgotten the old ways of medicine. The poisoners used our arrogance against us, making something so simple our complex systems would miss it. Sarah thought about this, like hiding a tree in a forest. Exactly. They used modified human-based toxins, knowing we'd never think to look for such primitive compounds. Lyra suddenly grabbed Sarah's arm, her skin pulsing with urgent red patterns. My father has maybe 2 weeks left. My brother, less. I need your help to find an antidote. Before Sarah could respond, bright lights flooded the clinic's windows. A deep voice boomed from outside. This is the Planetary Security Bureau. We know you're harboring an alien fugitive. Come out with your hands up. Lyra's skin went pale with terror. They found me. If they take me back, her patterns showed something Sarah didn't need alien biology to understand. Absolute desperation. Sarah made a quick decision. Quick, there's a back door through the lab. Run. I'll stall them. As sirens wailed outside, Sarah realized her simple medical practice was about to become the center of an interplanetary crisis. Sarah's old Toyota bumped along the dirt road as rain pounded the windshield. In the passenger seat, Lyra's skin barely glowed, her light patterns growing weaker by the hour. They had been driving for 6 hours, taking back roads to avoid both human and ethereal authorities. We need to stop soon, Sarah said, glancing at her patient. Your condition is getting worse. Can't stop. Not safe. Lyra's voice was weak. Her skin flickered like a dying light bulb. Sarah turned onto an even smaller road, heading toward what looked like an abandoned barn. I have a friend who owns this property. No one's used it in years. She parked behind the building, where the car wouldn't be visible from the road. We'll be safe here while I examine you properly. Inside, Sarah used her phone's flashlight to inspect the barn. Old hay bales and farming equipment created plenty of hiding spots. She helped Lyra to a relatively clean corner and spread out her emergency medical kit. Your light patterns are becoming irregular, Sarah said, taking Lyra's vital signs. And your body temperature keeps shifting. Whatever this poison is, it's attacking your core systems. Lyra's skin displayed faint red swirls. The patterns, they're not just for communication. They're connected to our nervous system, our immune response, everything. She coughed, and her skin went dark for a moment. The poisoners knew this. They targeted the one thing that makes us ethery. Sarah frowned as she studied her medical tablet. Wait a minute. These readings remind me of something. She dug through her medical bag and pulled out an old textbook. In human medicine, there's a condition where the body's signaling systems break down. It's like your light patterns, but with our nervous system chemicals. You think the poison works the same way? Maybe. Sarah flipped through pages. The poisoners used human-based toxins, right? They probably modify human nerve agents to attack your light-producing cells. She looked up excitedly. That's why your advanced medical systems missed it. They were looking for damage to ethery biology, but the poison is actually targeting the connection between your human-like nervous system and your unique ethery features. Lyra's skin brightened slightly with hope. Can you treat it? I think. Sarah was interrupted by the sound of vehicles approaching. Through gaps in the barn's wooden walls, they saw the blue flash of police lights. They're here, Lyra whispered, her skin going almost completely dark with fear. Sarah quickly packed up her supplies. There's a cellar under this barn. My friend used to store medical supplies there during the pandemic. She pulled up a hidden trapdoor. Get in. And Lyra, I think I know how to help you, but you're not going to like it. Why? Because the cure might be as primitive as the poison. Sometimes, fighting poison means going back to basics. Sarah helped Lyra down the ladder. And in this case, basic might mean using human blood cells to help rebuild your light patterns. Above them, car doors slammed, and flashlight beams began sweeping the area. In the dim light of the cellar, Sarah worked quickly. She had turned the old storage space into a makeshift medical lab using supplies left over from the pandemic. Lyra lay on a cot, her skin barely glowing now. This is going to seem very primitive, Sarah said, preparing a blood draw kit. But sometimes the old ways work best. She tied a tourniquet around her own arm. My blood cells might help restart your light patterns. Lyra watched weakly as Sarah drew her own blood. How will human blood help? Your people share basic cell structures with humans, Sarah explained, now mixing her blood sample with some chemicals. But your cells also produce light. I think the poison is blocking the connection between normal cell functions and light production. She held up a test tube. Human blood cells are really good at adapting. If we can teach them to support your light-producing cells. Above them, footsteps creaked on the barn floor. Both women froze. After a tense minute, the footsteps moved away. Sarah returned to her work, adding some glowing bacteria she had preserved from her lab. These bacteria produce light naturally, just like your cells. By combining them with human blood cells, we might create a bridge to help your system restart. No one has ever mixed species like this, Lyra whispered, her skin flickering weakly. That's probably why the poison works so well. Your people would never think to try something so basic. Sarah finished mixing the solution. Ready? Lyra's large eyes fixed on the glowing mixture. Will it hurt? I don't know, Sarah admitted. But without treatment, the poison will. She didn't finish the sentence. Do it, Lyra said. Sarah carefully injected the mixture into Lyra's arm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Lyra gasped. Her skin began to glow brighter, but in strange new patterns, swirls of blue and green that Sarah had never seen before. How do you feel? Sarah asked anxiously. Different. Lyra's voice was stronger. The patterns, they're changing. I can feel. She reached out and touched Sarah's hand. Suddenly, Sarah felt a tingling sensation. To her amazement, she saw faint lights dancing under her own skin where Lyra touched her. That's impossible. The treatment, Lyra said in awe. It's not just helping my patterns, it's creating new ones, a bridge between our species. Their wonder was interrupted by a loud crash from above. A voice called out, "Check the cellar." Sarah quickly gathered her supplies. There's a tunnel that leads to the woods, she whispered. The farmers used it during Prohibition. Can you walk? Lyra stood, her skin now pulsing with steady light. Yes. And Sarah, she grabbed the doctor's hand again, sending patterns of light between them. Thank you for breaking all the rules of medicine. Sometimes, Sarah said, leading them to the hidden tunnel, breaking the rules is the best medicine. Behind them, the cellar door began to open. The tunnel led them to an old hunting cabin deep in the woods. As dawn broke, Sarah watched Lyra's skin shimmer with new patterns, ones that seemed to pulse in sync with Sarah's own heartbeat. The poison wasn't just meant for my family, was it? Lyra asked suddenly, her skin darkening with what Sarah now recognized as anger. What do you mean? Look at this. Lyra pulled out a small data crystal from her pocket. I downloaded these files before I fled. The poison. It was meant for all high-ranking Aetheri. Sarah connected the crystal to her tablet. Her eyes widened as she read. This is a manifesto. The restoration of pure Aetheri culture. She looked up. They're extremists. Worse. Lyra's skin flickered with patterns of deep red and black. They're called the light purists. They believe our dependence on advanced technology has made us weak. They want to force our entire species to abandon modern medicine. By poisoning people? Sarah asked in disbelief. By proving that advanced medicine can't save us. Lyra touched Sarah's hand, sending ripples of light between them. But they never expected this. A human doctor using simple techniques to find a cure. A distant sound made them both jump. Through the cabin's dirty window, they saw a drone flying over the treetops. We need to move, Sarah said, packing up. But first, tell me everything about these purists. As they gathered their supplies, Lyra explained. They'd been planning this for years. The poison is just phase 1. Once our leaders are sick, the purists will offer a cure, but only if we agree to their demands. Which are? Shutting down all advanced medical facilities, returning to what they call natural healing. Lyra's skin pulsed with frustration. They're using our own arrogance against us. They knew our advanced systems would never detect a poison based on primitive human compounds. Sarah paused. Wait. If they're using human-based toxins, she pulled out her medical books again. Maybe we can track them. Every poison leaves traces. If we can identify the exact human compounds they modified, we could find their lab. Lyra finished, her skin brightening with hope. Sarah quickly took a blood sample from Lyra. As she studied it under her portable microscope, she gasped. This is brilliant, in an evil way. They used modified snake venom combined with human nerve blockers. And there's only one place that studies both. Where? The Blackwood Research Center. It's supposed to be abandoned, but I've seen lights there at night. Sarah packed up her microscope. It's about 20 miles from here. Lyra's skin displayed patterns of determination. Then that's where we need to go. But Sarah, she grabbed the doctor's arm. The purists will kill anyone who threatens their plan. This isn't your fight. Sarah showed Lyra the faint lights now permanently dancing under her own skin. I think it became my fight when our biologies merge. Besides, she smiled. I took an oath to help people. It never specified which species. The drone's buzzing grew louder, and both women moved deeper into the shadows of the cabin. The abandoned Blackwood Research Center loomed before them in the moonlight. Sarah and Lyra crouched behind some bushes, watching guards patrol the supposedly empty building. Your light patterns are fading again, Sarah whispered, noticing how dim Lyra's skin had become. The first treatment is wearing off. Lyra nodded weakly. The poison. It's adapting. Fighting back. Her skin flickered like a dying flashlight. We need to do the full procedure now, or it will be too late. They waited for the guards to pass, then slipped through a broken window into what had once been a medical lab. Sarah quickly set up her equipment while Lyra kept watch. This is going to be dangerous, Sarah said, preparing a larger mixture than before. I'm combining my blood with 3 different types of bioluminescent bacteria. If it works, it should permanently bond with your light-producing cells. And if it doesn't work? Lyra asked, her skin now barely glowing. Best case, nothing happens. Worst case, Sarah met her eyes. Your body could reject it completely. A sound from the hallway made them freeze. Footsteps passed by, then faded. Do it, Lyra said, lying down on the lab table. My people need the cure, whatever the risk. Sarah connected the IV line to Lyra's arm. The glowing mixture began to flow. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Lyra's back arched and her skin exploded with chaotic patterns of light. Hold on, Sarah urged, monitoring Lyra's vital signs. Your body is fighting the change. Lyra gripped the table edges, her skin flashing with patterns Sarah had never seen before, wild swirls of color that filled the dark room. Then, suddenly, all the light went out. Lyra's skin turned completely dark. No. Sarah checked Lyra's pulse. It was there, but weak. Come on, fight it. Sarah grabbed Lyra's hand and immediately felt a burning sensation where their skin met. Light began to flow from Sarah's arm into Lyra's body, creating a bridge between them. Sarah's own newly acquired light patterns blazed brighter than ever. "That's it," Sarah whispered, understanding. "The human element. It needs both of us." She pressed her other hand to Lyra's forehead, completing the circuit. Energy surged between them. Sarah felt like her blood was on fire, but she held on. Slowly, impossibly, new patterns of light began to appear on Lyra's skin, patterns that pulsed in perfect sync with Sarah's heartbeat. "Please work," Sarah prayed, feeling lightheaded from the drain on her own body. "Please." Suddenly, Lyra's eyes flew open. Her skin erupted with brilliant light, filling the lab with a glow so bright it shone through the windows. "They'll see us." Sarah tried to move, but her legs gave out. Lyra caught her as alarms began to blare throughout the building. "Then we better run," she said, her skin now shining with steady, strong patterns. "Because I'm not letting my savior get caught now." Supporting each other, they stumbled toward the exit as shouts and footsteps approached from all directions. They escaped in Sarah's old Toyota, speeding down dark country roads as searchlights swept the area behind them. In the passenger seat, Lyra's skin glowed with steady, strong patterns, but they were different now, more complex than any Ethery had ever shown. "How do you feel?" Sarah asked, her own skin faintly shimmering where Lyra had touched her. "Strange," Lyra answered, staring at her hands. "I can feel everything. Not just my own emotions, but—" She touched Sarah's arm. Instantly, both women gasped as their light patterns synchronized. "I can feel what you feel." Sarah nearly drove off the road. "That's impossible. The treatment was just supposed to cure the poison. It did more than that." Lyra's skin rippled with patterns of wonder. "When your blood combined with my light-producing cells, it created something new. A bridge between our species." They pulled into an abandoned gas station to rest. Sarah took out her medical tablet and scanner, studying their new condition. "This is amazing," she said, looking at the readings. "Your light patterns now carry human emotional signatures. And my cells." She showed Lyra the screen. "They've adopted some of your bioluminescent properties. We've become living proof that our species aren't so different after all." Suddenly, Lyra grabbed Sarah's hand. Through their connected light patterns, Sarah felt a wave of fear that wasn't her own. "What's wrong?" "The purists," Lyra said, her skin darkening with worry. "This is exactly what they're fighting against, the mixing of Aethery and human biology. When they find out what we've done." Sarah checked her phone. "We need to warn people, both humans and Aethery. I'm sending my medical data to every doctor I trust." She looked at Lyra. "But we need to reach your people too. The High Council needs to know the truth about the purists." "They'll never believe us," Lyra said. "Unless—" Her skin brightened with an idea. "Unless we show them this connection between us. It's undeniable proof that humans and Aethery can help each other." The sound of helicopters made them duck down in the car. Through their shared connection, Sarah felt Lyra's determination grow. "My father," Lyra said. "If we can cure him using this treatment, even the most traditional Aethery will have to accept the truth." "But we'll have to get past the purists first," Sarah reminded her. "And they'll be guarding every way to reach the High Council." Lyra's skin glowed with a pattern that Sarah now recognized as courage. "Then we'll make our own way. The purists expect us to use advanced technology, hidden paths, clever tricks." She smiled. "They'll never expect us to walk right through the front door." "That's crazy," Sarah said, but she was already starting the car. "They'll catch us immediately." "No," Lyra touched Sarah's hand, sending waves of confidence through their shared light. "They'll be looking for an Aethery princess and a human doctor trying to sneak in." Her skin sparkled with mischief. "They won't be looking for two beings who are both human and Aethery at the same time." Above them, searchlights crossed the sky. But now they had a plan. The Aethery High Council building rose like a crystal spire into the morning sky. Sarah and Lyra walked straight toward the main entrance, their skin patterns pulsing in perfect sync. Guards watched them approach, confused by beings who appeared both human and ethereal. "Remember," Lyra whispered, "let them see our light patterns. They won't know what to make of us." They'd reached the security checkpoint. The guard's skin flickered with uncertainty as he scanned them. You're not registered in our system. We're here to address the High Council," Sarah said calmly. "About the poison affecting the royal family." The guard raised his weapon, but stopped when he saw their synchronized light patterns. No ethereal had ever seen anything like it. Human skin carrying their sacred patterns. "Let them pass." A new voice rang out. An elderly ethereal stepped forward, his skin dim with sickness. It was Lyra's father, the High Counselor. "Father." Lyra rushed to him, their patterns connecting instantly. The High Counselor gasped as his own weak lights strengthened briefly through the contact. "What is this?" he asked, staring at their shared patterns. "How is this possible?" Before they could answer, a group of official-looking ethereal burst through the doors. Their leader's skin blazed with angry red patterns. "Stop them," he shouted. "These abominations must not be allowed to spread their corruption." "Commander Vale," Lyra said, her voice carrying across the hall. "Leader of the Light Purists, here to ensure your poison finishes its work." The crowd gasped. Vale's skin flashed with rage and fear. "Lies. This human has corrupted the princess's mind, turned her against her own people." Sarah stepped forward, then explained this. She took the High Counselor's hand. Their patterns merged, and immediately his sickly dim light grew stronger. "Your poison was based on human toxins, hoping we'd never think to look there. But the cure came from the same place, human biology, working together with ethereal light." "Impossible." Vale drew a weapon. "Our species must remain pure." But it was too late. Other council members had gathered, watching in awe as Sarah and Lyra's shared light patterns spread to the High Counselor, temporarily fighting back the poison's effects. "Your own prejudice blinded you," Lyra told Vale. "You thought human medicine was primitive, that combining our biology would weaken us. But look." She gestured to the growing crowd of amazed ethereal. "It made us stronger." Vale lunged forward with his weapon, but froze as hundreds of light patterns suddenly blazed around him. Council members, guards, and workers all displaying their judgment through their skin. "Commander Vale," the High Counselor said, his voice stronger now, "you and your purists are under arrest for attempted genocide." As guards led the purists away, Sarah felt Lyra's relief and joy through their shared patterns. But there was something else too. Determination. "Father," Lyra said, "we need to treat you quickly. But after that." She looked at Sarah, their patterns swirling with shared purpose. "We have a lot to teach each other." The sun rose higher, shining through the crystal walls, and making their combined human ethereal light patterns dance like stars. 1 year later, Sarah stood at the podium of the newly built Human Ethereal Medical Institute. Her skin glowed with gentle patterns of pride as she watched the first graduating class, a mix of human and ethereal medical students, all showing various degrees of shared light patterns. "Remember when you thought human medicine was primitive?" she whispered to Lyra, who stood beside her as co-director of the institute. Lyra's skin sparkled with amusement. "Remember when you thought aliens only existed in movies?" Their patterns synchronized automatically now, a constant reminder of how far they'd come. The ceremony hall was packed. On one side sat human medical professionals, many now showing faint light patterns of their own. On the other side, ethereal officials displayed traditional patterns, but with new elements influenced by human emotional expressions. The High Counselor, fully recovered and glowing with health, stepped up to the podium. "1 year ago, we almost lost everything to fear and prejudice. The purists thought mixing our biology would weaken us. Instead," he gestured to the graduating class, "it has made us stronger than ever." Sarah watched her students with pride. After the cure was proven successful, Volunteers from both species had come forward for the revolutionary treatment. Each graduate now carried a unique blend of human and ethereal traits, doctors who could literally feel their patients' conditions through shared light patterns. Today's graduates represent more than just medical advancement. Lyra addressed the crowd. They represent evolution itself, not through force or fear, but through choice and understanding. A young human doctor stepped forward to receive her certificate, her skin glowing with the same patterns as her ethereal research partner. They had learned to diagnose diseases through pattern recognition that combined human intuition with ethereal light sensitivity. We've proven that true advancement doesn't come from rejecting the unfamiliar, Sarah continued, but from embracing new possibilities. Our primitive human medicine combined with ethereal biology has cured diseases neither species could heal alone. The ceremony concluded with a traditional ethereal light display, but with a twist. The human graduates contributed their own patterns, creating a dance of light that would have been impossible a year ago. Later, in their shared office, Sarah and Lyra looked at applications for next year's class. The waiting list included interested students from both worlds. "You know," Lyra said, her patterns showing contentment, "the purists were right about one thing. This did change our species forever." Sarah touched her friend's hand, their lights merging as they had that first desperate night in her clinic. They just didn't understand that change isn't always something to fear. Through their window, they could see the sun setting over the Institute's gardens, where human and ethereal medical students practiced together, their shared light patterns glowing like stars come down to earth. "So," Lyra asked, her patterns showing curiosity, "what should we teach them next?" Sarah smiled, her own patterns brightening with possibility. "Everything. We've only just begun to see what we can achieve together." Above them, the first stars appeared, twinkling like the light patterns that now connected two species who had discovered that the best medicine wasn't about being advanced or primitive. It was about being human enough to reach across the divide.